Warning: the following contains graphic images and descriptions. Viewer discretion is advised.
My name is Dennis Mitchell. I was raised in San Angelo, Texas. I joined the Army in 1984 out of San Angelo, Texas. Which I already said that. Anyhow, I was 17. I served 1984 to 1988. Got out of the Army for 6 years. Rejoined in 1994 and retired in 2012 after 23 years of service. In my 23 years, I had 7.5 years that I served overseas in Germany, Korea, Bosnia, Kuwait, and 3 tours to Iraq.
How many wars were you in?
3. I was in 3 tours to Iraq. Bosnia was dangerous, but it was nothing like Iraq. The first tour, I served as a combat engineer, but we fought as infantry. I was in 1/8 Infantry Battalion. The second 2 tours, I was with 168 Armor. I worked in route clearance, and I was the first sergeant on my final tour.
So where does your nickname, the War Hippy?
The War Hippy comes from a guy in 1995 named Martin Lammy that was in Bosnia with me, and he noticed how in some instances I was stern and very commanding, and in other instances I was very compassionate, and I would say things like, "It's all good, baby, relax, nothing to stress about," and he just nodded and says that I was more like a hippie, so I earned the nickname War Hippy in Bosnia. I was the youngest of 5, and my mom was a single parent. My father died when I was 2. And we lived in Virginia during desegregation, and my sister was bused to a majority African American school when she was in 8th grade, and she was just abused every day. And my mom had had enough, so she packed us up and moved us to Texas when I was 8, and was raised there until I joined the Army at 17. Home life, we grew our own food, we had our own livestock, we picked pecans, we picked up aluminum cans off the side of the road, anything to survive. We were poor, but we didn't know it, but we always had food on the table. My mom was very stern, not a very affectionate, or not a little touchy-feely, and she passed away when I was 17. We went to Bosnia in December 1995, and when we showed up, it was a warm, sunny day. It was 75 in December, and they put us between a levee and a river, the Sava River, and our task was to build a 400-meter bridge, float bridge across the Sava River, and then once we were to get into Bosnia, we were to stop the fighting between the Serbs, the Croats, and the Muslims. And the 4th or 5th day we were there, the river rose and flooded out our camp. And we woke up in the morning, we were 4 feet deep in water, grabbing our stuff, getting in our vehicles, trying to clear out. And what had happened was the snow had melted and it flowed down into the river, which caused the flooding. And then it got bitterly cold. And we crossed the river, and once we got on to the other side, they separated Bosnia into 3 areas where the Serbians and the Muslims and the Croats were, and we were to basically clear obstacles and landmines that had been blocking the roads between these areas and help with rebuilding of the country. I was only supposed to be there 4 months, and I was there 11 months and 16 days. Every time we turned around, it was you're you're leaving next week, you're leaving next week, and next week turned into next month into we got to get you out of Bosnia, or when we get back to Germany, you're going to have to all move back to the States. So at 11 months, 16 days, they loaded us up and moved us back. While we were there, we had no phone access, no internet, no nothing. It was always snail mail, and it usually took about 2 weeks to get a letter. So you didn't know what was going on in the world, you didn't know what was going on with your family, and if there was an emergency in the family, there was no way to know. About once a month you could get a 5-minute phone call on a sat phone or a satellite phone, but that was about it. And that's what made Bosnia the worst, was you were just totally separated from the rest of the world. You had no idea what was going on.
What was the coolest part about Bosnia?
Seeing a different culture and the camaraderie between the soldiers, because you would have 10 to 20 guys all in a 20 by 40 tent, so you got to know the people that you worked with very well. And I wrote a lot of mail to, at the time they had what they called any soldier mail, where you would receive mail from some strange family in the United States, and I would write letters to 4th and 5th grade classes all over the country, and I would get tons of mail from these classes asking all sorts of questions. So it was very interesting.
What was the worst part about it?
The lack of showers, the lack of toilets, the lack of hot meals, the isolation from the rest of the world. Pretty much that was it. There were times where, we got there December 19th. I didn't see my first shower until Mother's Day. So it was 4.5, 5 months before we saw a shower. And the only reason they built those showers was because the First Lady was coming to our camp, Hillary Clinton. So they suddenly built showers and we had indoor plumbing for the first time in months.
So why did you enlist in the first place?
At the time, I was at a fork in the road in my life, and I had to figure out whether I was going to be a good citizen or whether I was going to spend my life in and out of jail. And I needed to get away from the environment I was living in. So and my mom had passed away, so I didn't have a place to live. So that's why I ended up joining. I was going to do it 2 years, and then 2 years turned to 4. And then I got out and realized that I was better suited in the military, and it took me almost 6 years to get back in. After Bosnia, we went to Kuwait for 4 months. I originally volunteered for Kuwait because I thought it would help with promotion. When I got over to Kuwait, the first 72 hours is you arrive and you sign out what they call war stock that sits on boats outside the shore. You sign out the equipment and you take it out and exercise the equipment, fix any maintenance problems. We went straight out to Diamond Kabul in the middle of the desert, and we sat for 4 months. We did nothing for 4 months. And at the end of the 4 months, you rush back to Kuwait City to turn in the equipment, put it back on the boat, and fly home. So it was 72 hours of rush, 4 months of sitting, doing nothing, 72 hours of rush. But while I was there, I was able to actually go into Kuwait City and see some things and do some things. So it was a pretty cool experience. I got to jet ski in the Persian Gulf. And that rocked.
Where'd you go from there?
From Kuwait, the next deployment was 2005. I deployed to Iraq. And what had happened in 2003 is I went to Korea, and while I was there, they started deploying troops, and they did what's called stop loss, and they froze all movement of soldiers. So I was stuck in Korea almost 2 years, and as soon as I came back from Korea, I was home for 3 weeks and deployed to Iraq for a year. And while I was there, the first 5 months, I worked as a claims officer. So U.S. forces would go conduct a raid, and they mess things up, and then the family would come in and file a claim for what they felt like was damage that should have happened, and my job was to validate the claim, whether it was legitimate or not. and sometimes it was legitimate, but most of the time it was a frivolous claim. And then after 5 months doing that, I took on the role as a platoon sergeant of a patrolling element, and I had 24 soldiers. We broke it down into 2 separate patrols, and then once a week we would conduct raids as one patrol. So all week you would collect intel on a target, and then once a week you would go act on that target as a larger platoon.
How'd you feel about the claims?
At the what?
The claims? How'd you feel about it?
A lot of times I was compassionate. It's just like the War Hippy. Sometimes I was compassionate, and sometimes it was suck it up, buttercup. I mean, we're in a combat zone, and this is something you got to deal with. And if your brother wouldn't have been blowing us up, we wouldn't have blown up your house. You got to weigh the positive and the negative. But a lot of times it was legitimate claims, and when it was a legitimate claim, then I would do the paperwork, and we paid them cash, and it usually took about 60 days to pay a legitimate claim.
Did anybody get hurt from that?
Yeah, right there's a guy. I'm let dumb, dude. I tell you what. Shit!
Fuck! Oh, my ear!
We need to get the fuck out of here. Back this shit up. Slow down, stop. Fuck!
Good.
Oh, fuck, man.
Hey, you alright? Get down, baby. Get down. Get down. Ears. You
Stay
alright?
the fuck down, buddy.
Stay down, baby. Stay down, baby. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. You alright, Ace?
Yeah.
You sure, baby?
Yeah.
You sure? What the fuck are you doing? Fuck. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Why the fuck are you sitting there? Shit! Fuck! Hey, sit down, baby. Sit
Hey,
down.
you're good. Back up a little bit more. All right, Humvee's still behind you, but they're moving.
Yeah, they're backing up. Scan your fucking area over there, free line if you can, baby.
Medals again.
I have 3 Bronze Star medals, 2 Army Commendation medals for valor, 5 Army Commendation medals, 3 Meritorious Service medals, 3 National Defense Service medals, 4 overseas medals. I got all sorts of medals. But the ones that I'm most proudest of are my Army Commendation for Valor. Even though it's not the highest medal I had, it was something that you only get for actions in combat.
Where'd you get that?
The first one, we were a unit was conducting a raid, and the platoon of 20 guys was stuck inside a building in a serious firefight. We were a neighboring patrol, and they called us to help. So we responded, and when we got there, one of their soldiers had been shot. He had been shot in the femoral artery and was basically bleeding out, but they were trapped in the building. We put suppressive fire on the building, went in, and I helped with casualty evacuation. And you're taught to do pre-combat checks and inspections and rehearsals, and one of the rehearsals you're supposed to do is casualty evacuation rehearsal. Well, this unit had not conducted a proper rehearsal, so the cots were too big for the Humvees. So the soldier's injured, we have him in the cot, but we can't get him in the Humvee because it's too long. So I told him to back up and rip the door off the Humvee so we could get him out of there, all while we were involved in a firefight. So they put me in for an ARCOM-V. And then the second one, we were on a patrol in Solder City, and one of our soldiers had been injured, and I led the CASEVAC on the ground under fire. We had done these rehearsals for about 5 months, and we had seen nothing, and every day we would do 30 to 45 minutes of rehearsals practicing a what if. If your vehicle's hit, what do we do? If your vehicle hit, what do we do? And on this night, we had been hit 5 times prior, but it hadn't caused any significant damage. The 6th time when we got hit by the IED, the soldier was injured, And everybody knew it, and everybody froze. And I called over the radio, and I'm like, okay, boys, we've rehearsed this. Let's do what we've been taught to do. And it's like everything clicked in. And from that time on, nobody ever complained about the rehearsal time that we spent, because they knew that you don't know what's going to happen on patrol. And this was one of those instances where everything that we had practiced actually played out. From that one incident, we had 3 Purple Hearts, 5 Valorous Awards. Now the soldier was injured, and he walks with a serious limp now, but he lived to see another day. So that was it was a significant learning event, and there were things that happened then that were adopted Army-wide because of things we learned from that one ambush. And one of the things was, when your vehicle is struck by an explosive, you lose communication. So we had to come up with a way to communicate so that if your vehicle's struck and nobody's injured, you don't put yourself in danger putting people on the ground. But if someone's injured, then you know, so you can act on that. So we used a red and green chem light. So if the vehicle was hit, the person could wave the green chem light if there's no injuries. You could suppress the fire, secure the situation, and then do your vehicle recovery and casualty evacuation. But if somebody was injured, you crack a red chem light, wave it, or throw it out the window or whatever, and that would let you know that you needed to act immediately. From that one incident, we did like an after-action report where we all sat around and we talked about the incident, what we could improve on, and one of our lowest-ranking soldiers came up with the chem light idea. This was in April. By the time we left Iraq, everybody that went out on patrols had red and green chem lights, and to this day, soldiers will carry a red and green chem light on their uniforms because of that one ambush.
Roger. Look at that route, see how far away Easy is.
Okay, Easy 26, long knife 12.
Here they come.
Long knife 12, this is Easy 6, over.
Sir, my sister ship is doing a PHO. We're on station. 011.
Oh shit, sir, they're firing, Got it?
Field, just to the power lines.
You want me to fire, sir? 30 millimeter.
Next to the built-up area.
30 millimeter. Sun is lost. No messages. Line up the LOS.
Sparkle the target with the UAV laser.
God damn it.
1-1, do you have something kind of more insight? Hey, Roger. Can you guys give me a grid location and your location?
They're being friendly, our enemy forces are firing on easy elements.
What about a miss? Okay, Roger. I'm actually all for another situational awareness.
Missile, sir.
Radio just up.
Easy 6, 191.
Long knife 1, Easy 6, over.
Roger, we're observing personnel with weapons down behind
We got you
barriers.
covered.
We're preparing to engage with hellfire at this time.
Oh yeah, they're making a break point.
Alright, sir.
What's your primary target?
Easy 6, Easy 36. They can sparkle the intersection on Route Rouge where we might go. Also heard the traffic of west line barriers. Roger that, break.
Alright, firing, sir. Stand by.
Guys are going to be engaging with
Okay.
Mascot West.
Fire. Shit.
Hey, long night, this is 86. Be advised we're approaching from the south. Hey, 36, this is 6.
Stop firing. Off axis. Easy 6, 191, if engaged with
Where's my CP6 guys? You're clear of me.
2, this is 1, I'm
Long
serving
night,
now.
186, Roger.
Hold this
CDA,
time.
Roger.
Security forces down here.
He just shot a missile.
They made a break for it. You got him.
Get those two guys. Get those quarters.
You want me to hit him?
Hold on. He needs to get out of the way.
I can hit the security guy.
Hold on.
I got the security elements.
1 second.
I'm still tracking him.
Yeah.
1902, striker main over.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to shoot these second guys to make sure you're clear of me.
I'm good.
1 second, you have a sight?
Yep. This is Warren. I'm circling out. Hold it this time.
Roger, we're going to engage.
I can. The building is. You show me hit the building corner?
This is on knife 1, Roger.
I can hit the building corner. Know which one?
Wait till he pops out and freaking send a missile right there.
Okay. Can you slow up?
Yep, slowing up.
And they're right here.
Okay.
Know what you want? I mean, stand by.
Engage him. Shoot that freaking thing.
All right, clear
You're
fire.
in constraints fire.
Fire.
One, this is on.
Missiles off.
Roger, good missile.
Slow away.
Get back forward with that intersection, and we passed you.
Destroyed. That guy smoked. Hey, we got just destroyed those last 2 squatters.
Security elements are destroyed.
Find some other bad guys.
Still searching.
This is on knife 1, Roger. I'll be turning back inbound. Verify you're turned out.
Okay, Roger, I'm ranking left. I'll tell you when I'm cold. Coming left.
I still have eyes on. They're done.
We got 2 of those quarters on the corner. Okay, I'm cold. I should be clear.
Fort fuel low.
Roger.
You did joint operations sometimes, right?
We did joint operations. We didn't know who we were carrying. They would say, you've got a couple of passengers today, and they were required to be part of our patrol brief, and they were required to be part of our rehearsals, but we never knew who we were carrying. And you'd put them in your patrol, and you'd be riding down the road, and all of a sudden they'd say, okay, stop here. And they'd just get out of your vehicle and disappear into the city or into the desert or wherever. And we'd all just look at each other like, what just happened? And you'd continue your patrol, and about 2 weeks later, you'd get a call, you're going to be picking up a couple of passengers, and they'd give us the grid, and we'd stop, and they'd be waiting there to pick them up.
Multiple branches in the same area?
Multiple branches, CIA, NSA, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, Delta Force. We had no idea who they were and didn't really care. It wasn't our job to question what they were doing. It's just, you got a couple more passengers. And on our manifest, you always had a manifest. You okay? Always had a manifest, and on our manifest, we wouldn't put the names. You know, you have the names and the battle roster number and whatever else, but for those guys, we just had extra passenger on our manifest. We didn't list any pertinent information because we didn't know, and it wasn't our job to know.
Were there like Air Force guys and stuff running patrol in the same area as you?
No Air Force. It was mostly just Marines and Army, Navy SEALs, snipers. I don't know who else.
Favorite?
My favorite?
Yeah, who's the nicest guys to work with?
I like the CIA guys or the civilian contractors. I don't know which one they were, but they were pretty cool. They were the ones that they asked us a lot of questions, and they were willing to answer questions from us.
What was the funniest thing you saw? That just happened in general?
I saw with the night scopes on an Overwatch, we watched some Iraqis having sex with a donkey. That was pretty disgusting. Funniest thing I ever saw. That's just about it. Most of it wasn't funny at all, but the things you would see at night with your scopes when nobody thinks you're watching, yeah, some of them were pretty out of control.
Do you think that's our biggest advantage?
Oh yes, definitely. The ability to see at night, because you can see for a long ways away. So if somebody's putting in an improvised explosive, you can see them 2 kilometers away and they don't even know you're there.
What do you regret from the Army?
What do I regret from the Army?
Maybe we could do it again.
I regret not joining in '84 and then retiring as soon as I got 20 to 25 years. I regret that 6-year break in service. I regret that I didn't start college and education sooner when I first joined. I didn't need to volunteer so much for different deployments. I could have easily sat back and let somebody else do it. But I felt like it was an obligation to me to go with the men and to be where the action was. I didn't want to sit back and feel like I didn't pull my part. That's about it. When I first took over as platoon sergeant, I had guys that were a little out of control. They had no problem beating someone up when they were asking them questions or mistreating civilians. So I had to slow them down and say, calm down, this is not how we do this. And that was a big problem at first. And a lot of them didn't respect me because I wouldn't let them go wild. This was their second or third deployment. This was my first. And I had to tell them, look, I'm in charge, and we're not going to beat this guy up. He didn't do anything to us. And 3-4 years down the line, I got a message from one of them saying, I understand now. I understand why you did what you did. Makes perfectly good sense now. Because to me, I didn't want to make more terrorists because we butt stroked somebody in front of his family. I wanted them to be able to trust us. And once again, that's part of the War Hippy mentality is relax. There's ways to do this. We don't have to be aggressive right now. We can be aggressive later. This is supposed to be a religious type war. You had Shiite and Sunni, and they both came from the same religion, and that the way they treated each other was insanely cruel. We had October 2006, right outside of Balad, we had 19 or 20 construction guys that were kidnapped by a Sunni tribe. They were Shia, and they were ruthlessly tortured to where some of them had their fingers cut off, some of them had their eyes scooped out of their head. And in the newspaper, they reported that they were all shot in the back of the head. But when we recovered them, none of them were shot in the back of the head. Someone had taken a cordless drill and drilled them in the back of the head. And just the cruelty just blew my mind. One of the Sunni tribes took over a Iraqi police checkpoint, and as cars would pull up, they would ask them for their ID card, and if they were Shia, they would march the family off and they would execute them and wait for the next car. And this was car after car after car. And by the time we found them, there was 50 bodies, men, women, children, all of them just strewn up, laid out in this ditch that had been murdered only because they were Shia. Just blew my mind. And the Shia were no better. They were cruel right back, but the ones from the first deployment really upset me because I couldn't understand why it would like be Catholics fighting Baptists. It was stupid to me. So, huh?
When you come across that checkpoint, there's nothing you guys can do about it.
No, you can report it up, but nothing's going to happen because of it. I mean, it's their culture.
How do you feel about the Iraqi police and the military?
Some of the police and some of the military were really, really good. Most of them were loyal to their tribes. You know, there's a tribal system in Iraq, and it goes on. The sheik is the main guy, and each neighborhoods have a certain sheik and a certain tribe, and people that don't belong there, they know. And if you're an Iraqi policeman from one tribe, you're going to be loyal to that tribe. You're not going to care about the other tribes, and most of them were corrupt. I had a police chief in Baghdad that was, we could have barbecued together. I mean, he would have been more than welcome at my house. And we talked back and forth, and about the different struggles between the different areas. And I'm sure now he's been assassinated or killed, but at the time he was the law in that area, and he didn't care what tribe you belonged to, what your religion was. It was all about right and wrong. So I made a point to stop and see him about once a week, so we could talk about things in the neighborhood and talk about ways to fix it.
So mostly you talk to sheiks.
Talked to a lot of sheiks, talked to a lot of city councilmen, civic leaders, police, Iraqi army. You know, the first tour, the Iraqi police had checkpoints set up, and they were supposed to help us. But what they did is they would play Overwatch so the bad guys could do whatever they wanted, and then they would tell the bad guys when we were getting close. So we could never catch the ones trying to sniper us, or the ones that were setting in the IEDs, because the Iraqi police were alerting them that we were coming.
Did that change between deployments?
The third deployment was really quiet, so not much action going on then. The second deployment, no, not so much. The Iraqi police and Iraqi army were corrupt. We had an incident that happened March of 2008. There was a National Guard unit that was leaving theater, and it stopped at an Iraqi police checkpoint and took their Iraqi flag and left. And the very next convoy that came through, the Iraqi police turned their back so that the insurgents could attack the patrol, and ended up killing 3 of our soldiers. And it all had to do with a flag. So they were corrupt. We didn't belong in their country, bottom line. It's their country. They should have fixed it themselves.
So you don't think we should?
No, not at all. And even once we got in there, we should have left their army and their police and their everything intact. Remove the leaders, but leave it intact. And then, it's okay. You can't hear it? We should have left their military intact, just remove the Ba'athist party leaders, and then help support them from there. But what we did is we went in and we disassembled the army, the police, everything, and put all those people out of work, so they did what they know how to do, which was fight. And instead of helping save their country, they ended up fighting against the Americans. What you read in the media is not what's really going on. There was a lot of stories that were twisted that were not correct, and I was right there, so I know what right was, and what the media was reporting was way different than what was actually. Oh yeah, way different than what was actually going on.
Wow.
I don't know. Even when we had embedded reporters, the article we'd read was not what happened. It's totally different than what had happened. So I think a lot of it has to do with political correctness. Maybe the key details are screened out of the information. I don't know. No, what do you want to ask?
Kid stories.
I was kind of sensitive towards the kids. If you wanted to find out what was going on in the neighborhood, you didn't ask the sheiks, you didn't ask the adults, you always asked the 10-year-old kid. If you asked him where Ahmed Mohammed was, he'd tell you, and all he wanted was a soccer ball and a little bit of attention. You never talked to the little girls, it was always the little boys. And you could use the kids as a signal that something wasn't quite right. If you're riding through a neighborhood and every day the kids are playing soccer, but today you don't see any kids, and you know something's about to go down. So we keyed on the kids a lot. And we had a soldier that had been injured by an IED blast, and we had cordoned off the city, and we're asking all the citizens of the city what was, did they know who did it, what was going on. And we had one platoon that went in during the day, and then we went in at night. And this platoon during the day had questioned this family, and it didn't get the answers they wanted. So they broke out all the windows on their house. which didn't make any sense to me. So I went to the patrol leader and it's like, why did you do that? And he says, they're lying. I know they're lying. It didn't make any sense because to me, you're creating a terrorist by abusing them. So anyhow, I always try to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And we went into this one house. We always asked, do you have any weapons? They'd say no. And so my guys had searched the house. And this one little girl is there, and I'm standing with the interpreter, and I'm trying to make her comfortable because you can tell people are nervous. And she was missing her 2 front teeth, and I asked her, what happened to your 2 front teeth? And she's like, well, I lost them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to find your teeth. So I told all the soldiers to look for her 2 front teeth. And of course she's covering her mouth and giggling and telling me, no, they just fell out. And so I'm talking with her more, and she's like 8 years old. She just got her ears pierced. She's talking about her little brother. So we finished searching the house. We didn't find anything, and we left. And about an hour later, we get a call over the radio that somebody had shot an RPG into a house. And I noticed that it was in the same area where we had just left. So I rushed back to the house, and when I get there, another patrol has already secured the area, and they're telling me, don't go up there. You don't want to go up there. It's really bad. And they're keeping me far enough away where I can just see the 2 bodies on the front porch, and I can tell that it's the little girl and her little brother. And so of course I'm shook up and just pissed off and every emotion you can imagine. And the Iraqi police came up, and they take the bodies and they put them in a white sheet and they toss them in the back of the truck like they're nothing. And I asked the policeman, I'm like, you guys need to clean the front porch. You need to hose it off or something. And this Iraqi policeman starts picking up brain matter, throwing it in the yard, and the chickens are pecking at the brain matter, and I just lost it. And that was the most significant emotional event that I had while I was over there. It had nothing to do with soldiers getting injured or blown up. This is something we do. We know there's danger involved, but little kids hit me really hard. And it had a deep effect on my feelings towards the culture, because there was no respect for the little girl or the gravity of the situation to me. They were so used to death that it didn't bother them at all. That one hit me hard. There were other situations. We had a little girl, she was probably 2 or 3, that was dipped into a fire because she misbehaved and was burnt from the waist down, 2nd and 3rd degree burns, held into the fire because she had misbehaved. And it's just a cruelty, just blew my mind who would do that to their child. So, soft spot for the kids. There are certain times that I feel uncomfortable, and I get irritated because some of my soldiers claim PTSD, and I think they're faking it. My wife says that they didn't grow up the way that I did. They weren't as older and mature, because I had a pretty hard upbringing. So it's like my whole life was geared towards the incidents that I saw, to where it didn't affect me like it did affect them. I have a hard time with crowds, but I'm learning to deal with it. I have a hard time sleeping. I drank too much, but kind of weaning down on that. The longer it gets past the situations, the less problems that I have. But for the most part, there's a daily reminder. Something will happen every day to where I'll get uncomfortable or anxious, but it doesn't totally alter my life. It's just a part of my life. It's like the experience is there, but it's been long enough past it that it's not as big a deal anymore. Does that make sense?